Oh, wow. I didn't realize it plays through your speakers, dude. I forgot you don't have your AirPods in, but
Yeah, dude, it's been speakers right now.
my bad. We'll intro it that way. I think I got it killed off for you now. But
Yeah,
all
dude.
right. Let's get into it. We're live here. Obviously, everyone, myself, Ryan, we got your announcement out for the race a couple weeks ago. You've been at the track basically 2 weeks straight, living down in Homestead. So now we're together, and we are roughly 2 months out, really more like a month and a half, and it's going to come up pretty fast. So let's get into it, dude. This is a quick turnaround in the public eye, but I'm sure this has been cooking for a while for you wanting to put a race on, and that's kind of the idea behind here, is to give everyone a little bit of a background on where we're at, what's it going to look like, and what's the MO. So let's go back here to where this idea comes from.
Well, honestly, I mean, I've spoken to you a lot, Xander, about, my just kind of passion for the sport. I think you and I both share a passion for karting and just believing that this sport is something special. I think we all listen to, we listen to a bunch of professional drivers from IndyCar, Formula One, NASCAR, all these guys, they all come to karting and they all talk about it, being the purest form of motorsports. And frankly, I mean, it is, and it is one of the most entertaining forms of motorsports. I think, when we watch events like the Super Nationals or the Miami Grand Nationals, the shootout, or, the Rotax World Finals, or Rock Vegas, there's a lot of events that we do throughout the year that are really special. And like some of the events that aren't even hyped up to be these, big grand events, like for instance, the USPKS race in Ohio. That was just, one of our regular races, but when you put it online, it got a big audience of people, and so being, who I am and understanding the sport, I believe that there's like an interest in racing and in karting specifically. And I think there's an audience for these kinds of events, these big show events. And so, my goal for a while has been, I've just wanted to put one on. I've wanted to bring karting to everyone's eyes and hopefully bring more eyes to the sport. Because obviously, the more eyes in the sport, the more people come into karting. I think a lot of the time we struggle with people understanding what karting really is and what it really can be. When you ever mention karting to anybody outside of the sport, they think you're talking about, concession carts or at a fun spot or at Disney or something. They don't understand. And so, my goal of everything was really to just try and bring this sport to more eyes and to show more people what the sport can be. Like I said, we've seen things that have done it in the past where people seem to be interested in it, and there seems to be an audience for this. And that's really all I'm trying to do is show this event to more people. I really believe karting is one of the best forms of motorsports, and I think it's probably one of the most entertaining. And so, with those two things being said, I want to combine that and try to provide a karting race that's entertaining.
And doing it at Orlando the week before the Pro Tour. In theory, everyone's going to be there for the test weekend. So Orlando specifically, though, was a track that you kind of had that you had said would be one that you feel like could host an event like what you're envisioning and what you want it to look like. Why is that?
Well, the event that I want to do and I've wanted to do is something more along the lines of, like a not Formula One, but having an ability to have a hospitality section. A lot of the time, and this isn't to dig on any tracks at all, but a lot of the time it's hard to invite people to races because it's not as accessible. It's not easy to watch. I have family all over that I try to invite to races, but sometimes it becomes difficult because it's hard to provide them a viewing area or something where they're not, sitting in the sun all day. And so Orlando is uniquely kind of positioned because they have a lot of viewing. I was talking to Andre Martins when I was kind of, introducing this idea, this race to him. And I mentioned, I'm like, your track is in a sense, almost like an arena. It's almost like, there's seating all the way around the entire racetrack, almost the whole way around the racetrack. I mean, you could put, stands along the junkyard there, and you'd have seating all around the racetrack, and essentially it becomes like an arena, which arenas are awesome for sporting events because everybody can see. And so that's one thing that, like, obviously the Pro Tour is the next weekend. So yeah, the track is kind of picking itself, but also, you know, having Orlando Kart Center with all this viewing and the ability to do cool things alongside the viewing. One of the things that we're really trying to do is Orlando, right above the, you know, the main building, the main registration building, they have this just kind of viewing area that's just this open area. And so we're trying to offer the sponsors that are coming to sponsor this event a hospitality suite with, you know, drinks and food, beer and wine. You know, we're trying to make it something of value to sponsors that they can come in and feel like, wow, I can enjoy an evening at the racetrack and just kind of sit down and have fun, you know. And it's not something where, you know, maybe it's an all day thing, but it's just something more of like a regular sporting event that you'd go to and just enjoy your evening. And then when it's done, and you know, you feel like you consumed a whole event in one evening there. And so that's something that's really awesome about the Orlando Kart Center, that it really has a lot of that stuff that, you know, you can provide these options for people. The other thing is, you know, I've had a long relationship with Andre Martins with, you know, Orlando Kart Center. He sold me my first kart. I was there before it was called Orlando Kart Center. Like, it was like a couple months before it was called Orlando Kart Center. So I've known Andre for the longest time, and he's really helped me, you know, whenever I've been at, you know, trouble spots in my career. He's been there and he's helped me, and he's always reached out to, you know, to make things better in my situation. And when I came to him with this idea, you know, he really just, you know, he had questions, but the main thing was like, how can I help? You know, how can we make this event something special? And like, even one of the things, you know, we came up with was allowing free parking for the teams. When they come, if you come and partake in this weekend, there's no fee to park your trailer. There's no pit space fee. You just come in and, you know, and enjoy the weekend, be a part of the weekend. And that was one thing that Andre's been really helpful in, is like, let's try and do what we can so that if, you know, we look back on this event, we've done what we could to make it, you know, as good as we could.
And so what would make it as good as you could on the outcome of this event? Like, what are the goals? Because you've got just one class. You know, it'd be crazy to think you get 300 cars in one class like the Chili Bowl. So what does make this event successful?
Well, yeah, it's difficult. I mean, obviously, from a business standpoint, you know, I think, you know, when you look at this, most people are probably like, oh, Ryan's trying to make some money. And like you said, there's one class. So it's difficult to make money because, you know, I think we'll get into the format a little bit more, but there's only really one class that's paying an entry fee. And so that is really, you know, all the revenue we're gaining outside of just, you know, you got like your regular pit passes and, you know, this VIP suite that I'm talking about. There's not a lot of big sources of revenue coming in. And so with that, you know, I'm also giving away a lot of money as well. So there's not really like a big money to get here. You know, obviously I want to make money, but at this point I'm just hoping we break even and we have a good week. But my goal for this whole event is, first of all, that everybody that comes has a good time. I want people to come and enjoy this experience. It's a different experience, and it's going to be different than what we're used to as racing teams. And I think, you know, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for these teams to come and be a part of it, because I know how hard it is in the racing community to get people to try new things. You know, it's always difficult. And so I'm trying to make it as easy as possible to make it accessible for all these teams. But then also, you know, I just want, you know, to have something that down the road, maybe I could approach, you know, a sponsor to sponsor the entire event and kind of alleviate the stress of and the burden on the teams to be the ones, you know, bringing the customers, bringing all this stuff. You know, ideally, we have an event that is special enough that I can go to a local sponsor or go to somebody else locally and be like, hey, this is a big event that comes in. It comes in every year. Would you mind providing, you know, X amount of dollars so that this event can take place, and just try to alleviate that burden from the teams. So, you know, obviously success right now is measured by, did everybody have a good time? And then is this race that we've, you know, created, is it marketable? Is this something that we can take again and do again in the future, and allow outside sponsors to come in and not just the team sponsors.
And so, talking about the format, we can go into that next. But first, on the specifics of the race format, what does the weekend kind of look like for, the guys that were planning on coming into test at Orlando? Everything else for a normal weekend, this sounds like it's going to be different, right? So what does the weekend look like for everyone, whether you're racing or not?
Yeah, so the weekend is the goal is to keep it the same, right? So if you were to go to Orlando Kart Center and go on a regular practice weekend, practice is open Wednesday to Sunday, and it's normally open, I think, from 8 to 1. The schedule, obviously, depending on how many drivers come, like for instance, this weekend is the Rotax event. The practice is going from 8 to 3. But depending on how many people come there, they try to accommodate everybody, make sure everybody gets enough sessions. So as far as, the teams that are coming there with mini drivers or drivers who can't compete in this race, the weekend stays the same for you. You can come in the morning, just like you would normally at Orlando Kart Center. You can practice. There'll be groups for you. You can go out and you can enjoy, just a regular race weekend. So as far as like the people who, might not be able to compete or maybe don't, want to compete, the race weekend is still the same. You can come and you can test for the Pro Tour. We're going to have Avinco tires on hand. I've spoken to Tom and tried to coordinate that so that, all the tires that we're going to be racing on or practicing on are going to be all the same tires that we're going to be using at the Pro Tour, which is great, for all the teams that they're going to be able to be there and have the tires. And so they can actually do some proper testing. But then, Friday night and Saturday night are going to be two, kind of special events. There'll be rental carts right after practice, and they'll run up to, I think, on Friday is 6 p.m. is when we start, and on Saturday is 7 p.m. And so basically, all the people that are there already, come and enjoy a fun night of racing. It's, just come and hang out. That's the goal for you is, you're going to do your testing. You're going to do everything that you'd already planned on doing, but then come in and just enjoy some fun racing. That's the goal for everybody.
So here, why don't we pull it up? We got the graphics for you for the format. So explain a little bit what Friday versus Saturday is like, because the name says Invitational.
Yes.
The banner put out says everyone can get in. So what's the breakdown?
So Friday night is a semi-pro race. That's how we're breaking it down. Friday night is a semi-pro race. This will have an entry fee. You will have to pay to come compete in this race. We'll release the registration hopefully in the next couple of days. But basically what's going to happen is Friday night at 6 p.m., depending on how many, drivers show up, there'll be a qualifying. Practice has obviously already happened in the morning. So, I'm assuming you've already tested and done everything. So first session is qualifying. It's one set of tires. So you do first session in qualifying. You're going to do your, standard A, B, C, D heats. Depending on how many drivers are there, that also could change. But generally it's A, B, C, D. You're going to have the top 36 drivers. They're going to transfer to the final race. And then after that final, you have your top 15 drivers. Those guys will advance to the Saturday night pro final. And so that's kind of where it gets to, is that if you're not one of the invitees, which we'll discuss a little bit later, you have to race your way basically into this pro final on Saturday.
And then let's go to Saturday. So Friday you have the open, anyone can get in. Saturday's main event for the 15 that transfer, and then the 15 invited. That's what we have here. So what do you walk us through this?
So basically, after Friday, obviously, we're going to try and get some prizes for all the drivers who competed Friday. If you win that gauntlet kind of race, you deserve something. So Saturday is for the money. When we announced that $20,000 payday, that's for the pro drivers. So you have to kind of race your way into that. That's kind of the whole point. And again, top 15 was something that I thought was respectable enough that if you finish top 15 amongst, some of these good drivers, I think you're qualified to be racing the pros that are selected. But essentially, there are 15 drivers that I have selected and will announce shortly that will already be qualified for this race. There's no entry fee for Saturday's race. The only thing you have to do is purchase the tires to compete in the race. Everything else is covered. And so basically you compete in the race. It is a timed qualifying. Again, split into 2 groups. So odd and even. It's going to be kind of random. There's not going to be like a fast group, slow group. It's just go out and qualify. 15 lap pre-final. And then the fun kind of comes in for the final. The final is what's really going to be, what the race is all about. You have 2 sets of tires for this entire event. So, you qualify on a new set and you have a second set that you can use whenever you want through the event. The final is a 3-stage final. So you do your first stage will be 10 laps. And then after the 10 laps, out of those 30 drivers, we are going to do an Australian pursuit style race. And the last 5 drivers are eliminated. And so then we have a 25 driver field. And then they go through another 10 laps. And then after those 10 laps, another 5 drivers are cut. And in the final, we will have a group of 20 drivers that will compete for the final prize of $10,000. I forgot to mention as well, each stage win is $2,500. So essentially, if you win both stages and the final, you will walk away with $15,000. So it's a lot of money. And so we're really wanting to be able to, put out a show, and there's some strategy to it. If you are starting towards the back, you have that new set of tires. Maybe you want to take that, advantage early and try to work your way out of an elimination spot. But essentially, we've got both ends of the field fighting. You've got the front drivers fighting for, their chance at $2,500. And then you also got the guys in the back fighting to stay off of elimination. And so it's essentially just going to create a lot of racing all the way through the field. And we don't want really any driver to feel like they can just cruise at any point. You need to be, on it, from the get-go.
And we can go from there to the drivers, I guess. Let's go to the 15 guys you have invited, and what was the qualification to kind of get them. So these ones, pro by association, this is internal, right? These are karting superstars over the last year to 2 years. So, and this is crossing the main 2 pro categories we have. Here's the list that at the moment we'll be getting invites from you.
Yeah. So essentially the list of drivers, and the way I decided all of these drivers that I would invite is really, kind of reaching out and giving a shout out to all of the series that essentially make us pro drivers. I can't do what I do without having Scusa and USPKS and Eric Jones with the IAME Grand Nationals and Rock and all these, and stars. We can't be pros without a Series 2 race and become a pro. And so basically my qualification for any pro driver that I consider a pro is that you have to be a champion or a winner at any of these pro level series. And so that is, my qualification. That's where I got all these names basically. So obviously Joe Turney, he is your Scusa Pro Tour champion. He's won a bunch of races, so he's more than qualified to be considered a pro. Mateus Morgado, he's your Rock GP champion. He's also the Florida Winter Tour and the Rock Vegas champion. So he's kind of double dipped, more than qualified. I am the USPKS champion, so I will also be racing. If I were to win the event, no worries. Half the money will go to second. So I will split the winnings. So that's not a problem. Austin Garrison is also on that list. He's a 2-time race winner at a pro level. So that qualifies you. Harley Keeble, 2-time race winner, young guy, very qualified to be considered a pro level driver. Diego Ramos, a lot of experience in the senior category. He won in 2022, but also, he was a championship contender all throughout the year in pretty much, every category that he raced in. So that is somebody who, I consider to be a pro level driver. Donovan Bonilla, he kind of wrote his ticket into this race at the Super Nationals. If you win that race, you're a pro. I mean, you can't win one of the biggest races in the world and not be considered a pro karting driver after that. Alessandro Di Tullio, another race winner. He won last weekend. Another just, high caliber driver. Brandon Carr, your Stars champion. Dalton Haynes, that's a driver who's making a name for himself right now. He's, started at just a couple years ago, and he's really working his way through the ranks. And, his win at the Miami Grands last year, you are a pro driver now. You're racing against a bunch of pros, and so you deserve that recognition, and you're a pro driver. And now we kind of start getting into the shifter drivers a little bit, because there was a lot of overlap in the tag category of people who had already won and who are also champions. And so you've got AJ Myers, who's a Winter Series champ. Danny Formal, the Supernatch champion. You can't, have a pro race without including the big guy. Kyle Wick, he's the Pro Tour champ, and then he also won the Rock Vegas race. That was like a really crazy race for him and fun to watch. And then finally, Hayden Jones. Again, another race winner, a guy who's been competing up at the front for years now, and a guy who just deserves that recognition of being a pro driver and having the ability to not have to pay for their entry fee and to be guaranteed a starting spot in the pro final.
And so it's basically a page out of, NASCAR's book with the AllStar Race. I don't know if it's been released with IndyCar's kind of All-Star Challenge that they're doing over at the Thermal Club, but pretty similar. A win over accredited, national race series or championship, kind of with weighted of strength of field between shifter, X30 Pro, between USPKS, SCUSA, Rock, and Stars, kind of the big four, gets those guys in. And again, that's an invite to them, right? And there's potential for maybe a list of alternates to fill it in, but ideally it's 15 invited guys that, for the most part, everyone looks like on that list probably is going to be in town for that weekend, minus maybe a couple.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's a lot of people are doing a lot of things. I mean, there's some couple Europeans on there, so if they cannot make it, we're going to have to try and find some alternates, which, it works, and that's fine. And we'll definitely find those. But yeah, these are the guys that I felt were, most qualified, and they're the ones that I think should be at the front.
And so, for this event, obviously on our end, we're going to stream it. And to the viewers that are watching along, we've taken a lot more of our kind of streaming behind the paywall. Our vested interest in this is that for the main show Saturday night, along with other select kind of star-studded events throughout the year and star-studded races, we're going to have free to view. The Friday event will be streamed on the paywall side, which is still a big chunk of eyeballs, but this one in that kind of 2.5 hour, easier to consume, window is going to work. And again, this is the idea behind the stages too, right? Is there's a little gap in between each where they'll be parked in is it the hot grid that was the idea behind it over in Orlando? So we can bring the camera down and talk to them.
Yeah. So actually what will happen is, I forget to mention that, so thanks for bringing it up. But all the pro drivers, Orlando Kart Center, if you've ever been there before, they have all the garages that line the grid. All of the pro drivers will be pitted there, because there's not going to be much time, because this is such a short window. We're going to set up, pit spots or stalls for every one of the drivers. And so they'll be lined up right out front for everybody to see. And it'll be kind of like, you go at a NASCAR race or an IndyCar race and you see all the garages lined up with all the cars and the teams and the drivers. They'll be all lined up right there. And so it makes it not only just easy for them to get in and out of the racetrack and, on and off, tires scanned and everything, but it also makes it great for the show part of it. We're going to be able to have you guys and Casey all come through and, be able to talk to drivers because they're right there. And, it's one of the things that we'll mention the drivers meeting, but you got to participate. If we're going to put off that much money, you need to participate. You can't do like I do sometimes and run away from the cameras. You got to go out there and you got to participate and talk. And let's try and create a show so that we can hopefully do this again. That's the goal, is that, I don't want to take from the community of karters. I don't want to take out of the pie that we already have, that we all kind of share. All I want to do is add to that pie. And so if we can, create a show where we can bring some outside sponsors into it, then awesome. That's just more money for the community as a whole.
Yeah. So there you hear it here first, folks. Our biggest denier of interviews is not going to deny an interview this time.
I mean,
Can I interrupt this and tell my favorite part of the longest time you went denying us interviews, Ryan, while we're on this full PR run a little bit? I don't know if you're going to know what I'm referencing, but when we were just doing videos right before the Miami Grands, that winter stretch of 2021, there was a couple of months where every time I'd come by the trailer and go, "Hey Ryan, can we get you for 30 seconds for the YouTube video?" "Oh no, I'm busy, man," and you shoot me off, you shoot me off, you shoot me off.
You're making it
for
seem like you weren't trying to get me to dance for TikToks, bro. That's
No,
what
I wasn't.
I was
No.
dancing. I was like,
Okay, now I'm gonna
a
give
little too
clarity.
far here.
I'm gonna give clarity here because at the Winter Series in January, the word got out in the pits that you had bought a bidet, and
Oh
we
my.
filmed all the interviews right with Hannah and Nate and you and I think Tyner, and we did this. I'll take some credit or some blame for it. We filmed 4 minutes worth of questions, and then the one question about the
Yeah.
bidet was the only thing we cut in the video.
Yeah.
And you
Thank you.
you ducked me for 3 months after that. Let's get into it. We're live here, obviously.
So my stuff replayed. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. But but no ducking. Heard it here.
Not anymore.
No ducking.
Not anymore. Not for anybody. If you want the money, you gotta participate. I mean, like I said, it's a lot of stress, and there's not a lot of room for extra income for this race. So right now we're trying to break even, and we're trying to give what we make back, and try and just put on the show with what we have left. So that's the goal. So if we can keep the show going and make it something that there's room the next time, that would be awesome. And like I said, if we can keep an open mind and everybody just be willing to give it a shot and try, and even if it seems a little gimmicky or whatever, let's try and do what a page out of all these other national big level series and how they sell their sport.
The other big part of this event is that the age minimums dropped a bit. Granted, now it's been working its way down, and in theory, a 13-year-old could already run in senior at a lot of races this year because you can count the age if they turn 14 this year. They get counted as 14 by like the SCUSA rule book, but in your case, it's at least 13 or older to race this race as a one-off. And that was, I think, the most notable thing that we had when the post went up between us and EKN of people going, "Why are juniors in to this deal?" So what's your reasoning for that?
Well, honestly, I mean, first of all, I've coached a lot of these kids, and I've coached a lot of seniors, and I've raced with a lot of younger kids that are more than qualified to race with some of the seniors. Like I've said before, the X Games, a lot of these kids are competing at 13 against 35-year-old men. It's part of the sport. And I think if you're qualified to race, then you should be qualified to race. Again, the entry to the pro class is you have to finish in the top 15. And so that's my entry. Everything else out of that, if you can make it and you feel like you can race against the big dogs, then go for it. And if you can finish in the top 15, then you're more than welcome to come race the pro race the following day. The other thing as well is we're seeing kids go to cars early and earlier that are 13 years old, 12 years old. I mean, I've seen some really young kids go to cars. If they're qualified enough to drive a Formula car at 130, 40 mile an hour around a racetrack, they're more than qualified to drive a KA, so I think that goes without saying. And like I said, there's a bunch of really good juniors that I've watched the years that I would, do practice weeks with or whatever, that are qualified to race and are good drivers. They're better than a majority of the senior field. So like I said, I think the drivers that feel like they can do it are going to do it. And I mean, I think everybody understands what you're getting into. If you're a younger guy trying to do it, you're in for, a fight, and it's going to be hard. And, if you don't want to do it, nobody says you have to, but if you feel like you can take it and you can take it to these guys, go after it, and let's see what you can do. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a junior that'll qualify for the pro event. I'm almost for sure about that.
And I want to go back to the teams getting free parking for those that field entries in this event. So how do they go about that? Is that something that you want to field through you? Is that how they kind of feel, do they need to reach out to Orlando specifically? How do you coordinate the teams getting a free bill?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole point is like if they'll know because if you compete in the weekend in general, if you're there practicing, if you're there, doing just what you normally do, the teams don't have to pay to park their rigs. There's not going to be a pit fee to be there. So as long as you're partaking in the weekend, then yeah, like that's how it's going to work. And obviously the logistics of that we have to coordinate a little, with Andre and everything and the Orlando Kart Center staff. But that's one thing we talked about was like let's again try to make it easy for these guys to show up and not be able to say no. It's too expensive. It's no. It's gonna be comped, and we're gonna try and make it worth your time so that you can bring a group of people and you can come enjoy the weekend. That's what we want to do is bring people to this event, and not make it hard for them to get here.
And granted, this is an event that you've kind of molded and talked about, I feel like, between you and I talking off camera and at race weekends for a little while now. So now that it's announced, granted we're live right now and the event hasn't happened yet, what's the feelings going through your head thinking this all out and trying to put it all together?
Well, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot because you have the people in the sport that they don't think the way I think about it. And some people think that I'm really just trying to do it for the money, and I'm trying to just do it to make more money and just have a one-off and cash in. And that's not at all my intentions. That's what goes through my head is I really fear that people think I'm just cash grabbing here. And like honestly, I'm hoping to break even on this weekend. My goal again is really just to try and promote the sport. I don't want anybody to get the idea that I'm coming after them, or I'm trying to start a series, or I'm trying to kick another series off a platform. That's not my intention at all. When I came to selecting the KA engine to be the primary engine that we're going to run in this event, the goal was just to pick the engine that the majority of people have. It wasn't really, this engine is better than that engine. I haven't even raced a KA race. So like, it's not in my alleyway at all, but it was something that I was like, this is an engine that everybody has. And so let's try to accommodate as many people as we can and allow for that, barrier for entry to kind of be gone. And so, yeah, I worry that some people, think I have, ill intentions and that I'm just here, trying to get the Norberg Nation brand bigger. But that's not it. I'm really just, I want to put on a race. I believe in the sport. I believe in the product that we have, and I want to promote it. And I think we can. And I genuinely think that the sport is something special. And the drivers we have are amazing, talented drivers. And we're that group of people. We talk about it a lot, but it's like 3% of drivers actually make it in race cars, and there's this huge plethora of talented, impressive individuals that aren't in race cars, and they want an avenue to continue to race, and they want an avenue to continue to show their skills. And so I want to be able to provide that for them too. I want to be able to have a place where the teams feel like they've invested in this driver. Let's try and get some investment back. And that's my goal, is to try and just create something that's good for everybody. And again, it's not to take anything from anybody. I think every series that has been here before has made me who I am and has made my brand what it is. And, I still want them around. I think we need these racing series. We need them to keep going, and we need more people to be in this sport. And so if we eliminate them, we're going to have less. So we need all these series competing and being a part of the community of karting.
So for the event itself, I'm sure this answered hopefully a couple of basic questions, but people have any more questions, again, for all of them, they should direct over towards your way on your social media and everything like that.
Yeah. I mean, if you have questions about, the format or whatever, contact me. So on my social media, or, I'm on everything. So yeah, contact me there. And yeah, don't feel, afraid to reach out. I mean, it is a new event. And so it is kind of, confusing. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to work my way through. I'm still learning as well. I've never hosted a karting event before, so I'm still putting a lot of the moving pieces together. But yeah, if you have questions, make sure to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to answer.
Sweet. Well, I think that's it. Unless you had any more closing thoughts there. You had kind of a good last one about it, so I don't want to make you reiterate anything. But anything else you'd want to leave people with?
No, man. I mean, come race. Let's come enjoy the time. And like I said, man, it's going to be a fun evening. Whether you race or not, it's going to be fun. So try and come out for it. There's food, there's drinks, and there's racing. I mean, what more do you want?
I think that's a pretty good tagline onto it. All right. Well, thanks, Ryan, here for coming on for the Q&A. I think that pretty much does it on all the questions that we have so far. Obviously, like you said, guys, if you have any more questions, you can shoot them over to him. I do want to have a quick shout out on our own. We've got our KC partners over at Grid Vision. I completely screwed up. I told Ryan this right before we went live. If you guys are still wanting to watch a little more racing, karting related content, the guys at Star Championship Series have their esports monthly event going on right now on Grid Vision over on YouTube. So check that out. We're live this weekend. Ryan's in action. At least, we're coming to your hood, so we expect you to be in Orlando. But 180 entries and counting for the Rotax Max Challenge Trophy Winter Trophy that we got this weekend. So thanks, Ryan. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys in a couple days.